Hey coaches, Corbin Smith here with More Than the Scoreboard. I wanted to let you know I created MTTS Sports Group. We specialize in team leadership training, leadership speaking, and staff development seminars in order to align your staff together. We also offer the Tour Crucible event, which is a team leadership stress test, 6 hours, fully immersive for you. Go to mttsportsgroup.com and let us know how we can help. Enjoy the podcast.
And we kind of feel like we're turning that corner to get back, to where Mullen once was.
Yeah,
Long way
I think
away.
you're.
But
Let me introduce you real quick, and I'll kind of let you fill in the gaps that I don't hit. But Jeremy Bennett, head football coach at Mullen High School in the Denver, Colorado area. Longtime coach, man. Been doing it a long time, 30 years or so, huh?
yeah, just finished my 31st year. It's
That's wild.
I look in the mirror and go, wow. I don't, there's hair up there, but it's this different
Yeah.
color, and it's all kinds of crazy things going on because of this game. Wouldn't change it.
So you're entering your is it your sixth or seventh season at Mullen coming up?
Yeah, coming up will be my 7th season as the head coach.
Okay. So
I'm
this will be your 22nd year as a head coach, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, good. And I'll tell you guys a little bit, and we were just talking before I started recording, but I was fortunate enough to watch Coach Bennett's teams play the last 2 years, and I'm going to tell you what you when you sit and watch teams as a coach, there's certain things you look for. You look for toughness, or at least I do. I look for toughness. I look for how coaches use the players that they have to put them in the best spot possible to be successful. And just the aggressiveness and the speed and the scheme and just the coaching. I thought you guys, I mean, excellent job. I was really impressed, and at the high school level, it's it's hard to be impressed a lot of times as a coach, but I enjoyed watching you guys play really a lot.
I appreciate that. A lot of old school guys
Yeah.
on the staff. A lot of guys been doing this for a long time, and a lot of guys that are here to coach kids to get them ready for the next level, not for themselves. Our
Yeah.
time's done. Um, as you can imagine, after 31 years of doing this and having some great mentors along the way,
Yeah,
Jim
it
Ratt,
looks like it.
Dave Sidwell, and some old guys like that. Bob Steckline, I'll even put that one out there, who's a long time coach here. Grumpy old dude, but I feel like I learned to coach this game from some gentlemen that hold it to a high standard. And,
Yeah.
our kids do play hard, but that's the expectation, right?
Right.
And I think here at Mullen, I'm still afforded a little bit of that old school mentality. I mean, we love them up. Don't get me wrong. Um, and I think for me, I really appreciate kids that want to play football. It's hard. It's hard,
Yeah.
right? And kids
Yep.
don't want to do hard stuff as much anymore. And so we're going to get after our guys and hold them accountable. But at the end of the day, man, I love what they do out there and the effort they put in. So
Good. Well, there's so many things just right there that I want to touch on, but I, I've not personally struggled, but when I became a head coach, I mean, it didn't matter that my dad was a head coach for 24 years at the FBS level. It didn't matter. Didn't matter that my former brother-in-law was a head high school coach, or my former father-in-law was in the Arizona Coaches Hall of Fame and was the head coach for 40 plus years. No one can prepare you for being a head coach. You can go in somewhat prepared if you've never been a head coach, but it's one of those things like being a father, right? That you kind of have to you kind of have to weed through it and figure it out on your own. But at the same time, I had about 4 or 5 mentors that were head high school coaches. And a couple of them were people in our own region that I respected and that I had known that, I mean, one of them I even called after our game and was like, "Hey, I got this situation." And I see younger coaches nowadays, and it's kind of mixed. but you got some guys that understand the importance of having those mentors and some guys that just want to do it on their own. You've obviously had some great mentors that I'm sure you still lean on no matter how long you're a head coach. How important do you think that is for you and for, you know, other head coaches, whether they're new or they've been doing it for a while?
Oh, priceless, right?
Yeah.
Just because even after 31 years, you haven't seen it all and you haven't done it all. But
Yeah.
a lot of those mentors have. And, whether it's not even so much the X and O piece of it, right? I mean, scheme and
Right.
adjustment, it's what we do. We're ball coaches. It's more the, gosh, I hate the fact that as a head coach, you're almost a politician at times, right? The
Yeah.
outside noise you have to handle
Unfortunately.
and you have to deal with, and Johnny's not playing, and you know, I asked Coach Brad one time. I said, there's parents all over me here. This kid's not playing, and he works hard, and he stopped me and he said, "You love the kid, you respect the kid." I said, "Works his tail off. He's just not good enough to crack the starting lineup." And he said, "Then don't worry about what anyone says." He said, "Because I'll
Yeah.
tell you this, you were hired to win. And if any parent thinks you're not playing their kid because you don't like them," he goes, "Hell, Jeremy, I didn't like a lot of kids that played for me personally, but if they gave me the best opportunity to win, that's who we're playing." Right? He
Right.
said, "So have that tough conversation with those parents." And I know it sounds silly, but some parents, you got to handle different. So for me, going back, and this was earlier on in my career, but going back to those men that have done this and that I'm so fond of, and gave me opportunities, that's priceless. Just to
Yeah.
tap their brain.
Right.
Now I say I'm a little old school after 31 years. I would say Reed's old school. Um, you go to our mentors, and there's sometimes I call them and go,
Oh man.
hell, I don't know.
Yeah.
More power to you. I couldn't do it. And,
Yeah.
we
Right.
chuckle about it, but you've got to have those gentlemen keep everything in perspective for you. They and again, for me, it keeps reminding me of why I do this, but then the right way to do it. Because you and I both
Right.
know there's a wrong way to do this. And
Right.
as soon as it becomes about you, as soon as outside noise affects what you do, my mom says I have this double-edged sword that I've always lived my life by, and that is I don't care what people think. I'm here for a purpose. I know why I'm here. As long as these kids are benefiting, I don't care what you think about me. I've got, two friends. I don't need any more. Um,
Right.
it's good and bad, right? According to my mom,
Yeah,
I,
100%.
I like it. But, those mentors, those gentlemen that have paved the way for us to continue to do this, we owe it to them to do it the way that they laid out for us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you were a linebacker, wrestler. I saw are you do you do jujitsu?
uh,
Are you
yeah,
kinda in
so I
that
did a
world
little
at
bit of
BJJ?
jujitsu, but I'm a Rodan in judo. So,
Okay,
yeah, I grew up competing in judo, um,
good,
to
good.
this day. Um, you know, that now the body hits
Well,
the mat, it hurts different.
oh,
But
I was at the gym yesterday. I'm 53 years old. I was at the gym yesterday and, I think we were doing back and buys, and I bent down to pick up the cable, and there's a guy that's always in there a little bit older than me, and he's kind of watching me, and I grabbed the cable and I pulled it up and I said, the lifting part's not hard, it's the bending over and getting low to get what you need. And he just started laughing.
oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
kudos to you for still being active in that. Do you think that discipline um has helped you, you know, that discipline in your own life for being physically active and doing what you do? Do you think it's helped um, really kind of live what you preach to these kids?
100%. I mean, 100%. and it's also a great stress relief so that you can
Yeah.
continue to stay in the mindset that you have. Yeah, when we go back to younger coaches, I think a lot of them talk, and I've got a real short saying. It's stupid. It's say it, do it. Say it, do it. Don't say things. Don't get on your pedestal and preach to kids, and then you turn around and you walk away and you don't do it, right? Look, man, I'm not perfect, nowhere close, but that's the other piece of it. Put your hand up when you make a mistake. Let these kids know
Right.
you're
Own
human,
it.
right? Own it, establish those relationships. But yeah, I just think, if you're going to tell a young man, hey, I need X, Y, and Z out of you, and I need it all the time, and I'm not gonna let you fall below that bar. Um, you better live that, right? Because
Right.
then you're fake, and when you become ungenuine in our industry, you know what happens then. Your
Yeah.
kids leave, you don't get
Yeah.
anybody, and then the noise starts. So
Yeah. It's funny. I wrote a book in the last 7 months. I wrote a book, so it's in editing right now with the publisher, but it's more of a culture type blueprint. It's called More Than the Scoreboard, same as this, and you know, it's strong cultures, true leadership, and unbreakable teams. And um, it kind of the premise I've been wanting. My dad died in 2008, and I've been wanting to write a book since 2008, but I couldn't put the pieces together. I was going to do it about my dad's legacy, his pipeline, all this kind of stuff. Well, doing this podcast and talking to now 70 coaches in less than a year it has I wish I would have done this when I coached because I've learned so much, and so the point is going back to what you say it, do it. The last chapter of the book is coaching belief and organization that my dad would always give to us assistants every year, and we'd review it. It's about 20 pages long, and one of the main thing that always sticks out, I know that thing front and back, but the one thing I keep going back to is he said, "If don't make threats without following through." And not threats necessarily in a bad way, but promises, right?
right,
And that has always stuck with me, and it's a hard thing for coaches to remember. Like you said, say it, do it. I
right,
remember being a young coach. I was a GA. I was 22 years old at Missouri, and I was in the secondary. I was a defensive GA back when they only had 2 GAs, and I remember Mo Ankney was our defensive coordinator, and I had known Coach Ankney since I was pretty much born, right? And we were having a defensive staff meeting, and people were talking, and I said something. And I'm sitting off to the side, and he looked at me. I mean, he's like my dad. He looked at me and he goes, "Corby, if you sit there and you just listen and shut up, and if we want to hear something from you, I'll ask you." And I was like, "Okay, coach." And I never,
yeah,
I learned that lesson very, very,
right.
very early in my at the start of my career. Um, let me, because I just reading about you. You're a loyal person. You're a loyal coach. It's very evident. Your prior school before Mullen, you were there for 15 years. You even said when you got hired that, you know, this will be your last stop. You want to be here, through the end of your career. Um, what made you want to take the Mullen job? Why Mullen? Why not? Because I know you had opportunities, multiple opportunities to go elsewhere, but why Mullen?
you know, Growing up here in Colorado, even though it was Boulder County, it was Mullen, right? Mullen
Yeah,
was successful, and some of the legendary guys that had been here, Pete Levine, Mick McCall, guys that they're just good coaches. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not unhappy where I'm at. Right. I like it. We've established something here, that loyalty piece. That's huge to me.
yeah,
I want people to be loyal to me for all the right reasons, and I want to be loyal to them. But I thought to myself, take Mullen if you get it, and let's see if we can get back to that Mullen mystique. Now, the hard part is back then Mullen was the only show in town when it came to private school and
right.
football dominance, and that's just not the case anymore. But um, I just thought I could help. Well, knew I could help. I knew it was going to take some work. I had no idea when I got here how much work it was going to take. Of course, I get
Yeah.
here 2 weeks later, this COVID thing or whatever that was, and so I don't even count that first year because you know, that was a weird deal. But um, I just wanted to reestablish this program as a state powerhouse because I kind of felt like a lot of people disrespected it. I look
Yeah.
back at these longtime coaches, you know, again, Coach Bratton when he was at Pomona and the battles they had with you know, Mullen and I just I don't know, I call it a calling. I just felt
Yeah.
like it had to be a job like Mullen for me to leave. You know, a lot of my peers had asked over the years, you know, about 5A football, 4A football. I mean, you're down here 3A football. Hey, why don't you want to move up? And I laugh because it's scheme and adjustment, right? Now at Devlin, I'm going to go out to Fort Morgan. There's going to be 5,000 people in that stadium, and they're going to tell us
Right.
go back to the city, and they're going to do all those things. And I'm going to go to Sterling, and you can't get gas because the place is shut down. Talk to me about Friday Night Lights, man. Ball's ball,
Right.
and
Yep. 100%.
you know so but I wanted to be here. I wanted to be here. Um, it wasn't about me. I felt like I had something to offer here. Um, and it's taken some work. It really has. But you know, that first year we were playing 5A football during COVID with 68 guys because we had 25 that were probably good players, but they just didn't want to do it the right way.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not come and go as you please. And so I think we've reestablished that. Um, and I'm honored to be the head coach at Mullen High School.
Yeah.
So
I know it's pretty evident. So again, and just for those that don't know, I mean, you came in, let's not count the COVID year. So the last 5 years you've gone to the playoffs every year. This past season, you started off 1-4 and you guys ripped off seven wins in a row and then lost in the quarterfinals to Ralston Valley and who ended up losing in the championship game. But my whole point is from an on the field perspective, and like I said, seeing you play, um, I can see a difference from last year to this year. um, and I would venture to say that the culture that you've implemented, that you and your staff and the vision that your athletic department and school as a whole has, you can see it. You can see it. I was
good.
fortunate to go to an all boys Jesuit high school in Los Angeles called Loyola High School, and
Mhm.
greatest experience of my life. I'm not even Catholic. Um, but it was tremendous, and I talk about it all the time, and there's something different about that type of culture because at a public school, and schools I've been to, it's almost like the culture of the school a lot of times from the culture of the football program that men like us are trying to implement and trying to create. And at private schools, it's truly from the top down. Like you have definite resources to
Yeah.
help build that. So, good for you. You sticking with loyalty real quick, because I think this is difficult for a lot of head coaches, regardless of how long they've been doing it. How do you how do you go about hiring the best men that you can to be assistant coaches, whether it's freshmen, JV, varsity, coordinators, position coach, volunteers, whatever it may be. I did see where I know I always had a lot of vets on my staff because of their mindset, and it looks like you do as well.
Mhm.
So how do you go about finding guys that fit your program and your culture?
Man, to be honest with you, sitting down, just sitting down and talking with people. Obviously, you check references, you do those things, but I think you can, you get snowballed sometimes. I've
Sure.
got a rule, and it's my own personal rule, and that's if you get hired on the staff, I'm going to give you 2 years. I'm going to give you 2 years because I I think part of my job is to bring guys along in the culture we
Mhm.
want to build, and so you know I've let several guys go since I've been here, and they're good X and O guys, and personally, I'll grab a beer with you or whatever, but you're not good for the program. And so I just think sitting down with people, talking, I don't want to know, you know, I don't want to get on
Right.
a board. I
No.
want to see what you do here. I don't want to see, and we're gonna we'll cloud this and we'll get over here. And that's fine. You've got to have those things. I want to know about your family. Do you have a family? I want to know about what'd your parents do?
Yeah.
What'd your dad do? I guarantee you hire a coach whose dad was a coal miner or something back in the day. Uh, you want that guy on your staff, right?
Absolutely.
Blue
Yeah.
collar, cracking the knuckles. I'm ready to get to
Hardworking.
work. So I think you've got to get to know the character, but you have to find that out for yourself. So I've talked to guys 10, 15 times before I've hired them, where it's a sit
Yeah.
down, let's get together. And, I had a guy, he's, he's great. I mean, he is a great friend of mine. He doesn't coach anymore. And, he's a 2-time All-American at CU. His name's on Folsom Field. Peyton Manning took his first snap from Jay. And, finally Jay Lewinberg goes, "Hey man, are you going to hire me? Are we just going to keep having conversations? What's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I am going to hire you." Now, you won't talk about a great player and a horrible high school coach's first year.
Yeah.
Um, because a lot of times those guys are so good at it, but they don't know how to teach it. They don't know how to take a 14 and 18-year-old kid and say, "Okay, here it is. Now practically do this the way that I'm telling you to do it." That's a skill set, right? Um,
Yeah.
Turned out to be the best offensive line coach I've
Yeah.
ever had on my staff. But I wanted to get to know Jay. I've had an NFL guy apply for a job before, and I'm like, this is not a good person. Jay's a great human. And I think that's what's really important. I need you to be a great human. I need you to be tough. I need you to take, I'm okay with breaking a kid down, but does that
Right.
kid know
But you
you
gotta build
respect
it
him?
back up. Right.
Right, enough to where he realizes coach is doing this to make me better and not just an ass, right? Um, so I think you got to sit down with guys and you've got to talk to them.
Yeah.
What's your goal? Like, a lot of guys, you bring in young coaches and you see them work, and I really, you know, I Reed's probably the same way. Like I got to go do this 7-on-7 stuff. And our system is
Uh,
we spread out, but we run the ball, right? We're balanced. We're 50-50 guys and we get in multiple fronts and formations. But I use those more as to sit back and watch a young coach and go, I like the way that
coach.
dude
Yeah.
talks to his kids. I like
Yeah.
what he's saying. I'm going to watch. And I've hired a couple guys, a couple years down the road, and it's like, "Hey, you were at this school, right? Yeah, yeah. What are you doing now?" Well, I'm still there. I was kind of looking maybe to move up and start the process that way. So I'm always watching. I'm aware of what's going on around me. I'll approach coaches all the time. Um, but you got to get to know them
Yeah.
because
100%.
and you know this, coach, you hire the one guy and everyone's on the same page. And then this guy's at the end of the hall talking to somebody. Wow, I really didn't like what he did. And, boy,
Yep.
you put that in, and all of a sudden you're only as strong as your weakest link. And that chain is broken now. And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
so I think the effort of establishing, so, even if it doesn't have to be a deep relationship, but it's like, wave across the room or whatever. I'd say at clinics, but those are so bad anymore. But you've got to establish that. So
Yeah. It's funny that you talk about Jay, and I I think I've worked with many guys that had super successful careers in the NFL, right? And again, learned this early on. Some of the worst coaches I've ever been around are the greatest NFL players. And I've said that to so many people. Coaches like, "Well, I got this NFL guy that I'm probably going to be hire," and I'll say, "Listen, just the same reasoning. When you're at that level and you are that good, you don't you work your butt off to get there, but the talent that you have to get yourself to that level and be successful at that level is far and beyond what I had, what you had,
Right.
what most people have. And so it's hard for those people to, like, Tom Brady to me is different because he was a very average quarterback coming out of high school. He had to work,
Right.
right? You compare that to like a John Elway, who was a tremendous, quarterback. There's Tom Brady, I have a feeling, can teach a hell of a lot better than a John Elway
Agreed.
because of the fact that, th you know, the highest level of players don't know how to come down to the level to be able to explain it from a fundamental and basic and technical standpoint because they were so gifted. And again, not that they didn't work their asses off,
Well, right.
because they absolutely did.
Right.
But, yeah, it's that's do you think that perspective that you have when you talk to coaches before you hire them and just talking to them again and again and again, because you were an arena league scout, correct, for some time?
Yep.
And I would imagine, I mean, I've never been a scout, had friends that were scouts, and it's kind of the same things. Like, it's like recruiting. Like, you want to peel that onion back layer by layer. You know that they can play. You know that the anybody that comes in, we can teach them how to coach, right? We can teach them the X's and O's. That was never a big thing. But do you think that that kind of comes from, you learn that as a scout?
Yeah, because you've got a short amount of time, right? And
Yeah.
when you go to a pro day, right? What's everyone's goal? Well, it wasn't the Arena Football League, right? But it gave there was another opportunity, and this is back when the Arena League, the Colorado Crush and the Rattlers, and
Right.
where my offensive coordinator played for so long, said Bonner. You have to peel that onion back. That's a great analogy. Quickly, 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 right? Because at the end of the day, some of those guys were making pretty good money, and for are you going to be able to slam into a board? Are you going to be so bitter that no one's picking you up, or you're not even you're not on a practice squad? Is this going to last? All of those things, and you have an hour tops
Yeah.
to try to figure that out. Um, it's funny. My my grandfather always used to tell me, as you get older, you get wiser, right? And I'm like, well, of course, because you're older. And he's like, well, no, it's because of repetition, you dork, And
Yeah.
I think as you get older, but the more you do something, right, you throw out what didn't work, you put in what does work. And again, when you were trying to find a kid to come play in the Arena Football League, what does your family mean to you? Right? What kind of relationships do you have with your family? I used to love it when I was at Sioux's Pro Day and they had some Division II guys as they do, and I had a young man say, "Well, how does this work? Like, will I make enough money to fly my mom to my games if I'm not playing here in Denver?" I, I'm probably going to take a shot at you and recommend you for
Right.
sure, kid. Right?
100%.
Because the first thing that mattered to you was your family, and so
Right.
yeah, yeah, but exactly that. If I had to do it in 45 minutes to an hour, and now I can have a conversation, 5 different occasions at 45 to an hour each one, um, you know, you can get to the bottom of who someone is real quick. Now there's always
Right.
skeletons, and there's always, like I
Yeah.
said, that second year comes around and you're doing your exit interviews with your staff, and I appreciate the effort you put in. And a couple guys I had to let go, boy, they worked their tails off at it. They were good, good behind the scenes guys, and always had their cards ready, always had their scouting report ready, uh, had their assistants prepped. One gentleman I'm thinking of in particular is a defense coordinator. All of those things were great. Horrible to kids. Would
Yeah.
outright root against kids on the same team on the other
Yeah.
side of the ball. Just like you're not great for kids, man. And so you got to go. Um, uh, but yeah, that helped.
There's a lot of people out there like that, and not that they aren't necessarily, I don't think that, I've always said, coaching, it doesn't matter what level, and professional level is probably a little bit different, but the base of every coach is you're you're serving. You're there to serve
That's right.
others, and
That's
those
right.
others are your players and the kids that you come in contact with.
That's right.
And you know what? There's people in this world, some of my closest friends, they try to serve, they don't know how. It's not innate in them. I think
Right.
the best coaches, it's who they are. It's who we are. I was talking to someone. I was on a podcast for something yesterday, and he asked me about that. And I said, listen, he said something about it took me a while as a military guy to understand that what I do and who I am are two different things, right? Which I've struggled with from time to time, especially getting out of college football. But at the core, they're one and the same if you have the mindset of, and you know you're there to serve.
Right.
That's who you are and that's what you do.
Mhm.
I didn't know Cedric Bonner was your offensive coordinator. And I'm not trying to name drop here, but there are 3 guys. I mean, those were the glory days, man. Randy Gatewood, good friend. Hunky Cooper, good friend. Mark Tucker, I played with him at SC. I love the man. Um, those were good times with the
Yeah.
Arizona Rattlers.
Oh, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
a heck of a player, man.
Yeah.
He was
Said's,
a heck of a player.
and I'll tell you what, I,
He does a good job.
he's a heck of a coach, but he's a heck of a mentor for these guys. And he's tough. He's exactly who needs to be on a coaching staff. And his kids are pretty darn good too. His son's a tight end that committed to Michigan this year, and
Good.
so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Although we got a running joke around here. Mom was a 2-time All-American on the soccer field in Nebraska, so
That's why.
some of that
That's why. It
athleticism.
wasn't him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I like to say that in front of recruiters when they're here, and he just shakes his head. But yeah, he's great, and those are the kind of people we want around kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Um, I read you're big on, I mean, obviously, because you were a multi-sport athlete, you know the statistics with NFL players and, the Power Four conferences and who they take and those kids' backgrounds as far as 85-90% of them being multi-sport athletes in high
right.
school. How much do you think you encouraging that, pushing that? And I know for me, I required the kids. I mean, I couldn't
Mhm.
make it mandatory, but I highly encouraged, listen, everybody's going to do something else in the offseason. I don't care if you wrestle. I don't care if you run track. If you don't have anything you can do, you're going to go run track or
Right.
throw or something.
Right.
How instrumental do you think that is in building the culture the way that you want overall?
Um, it's huge, and here's
Yeah.
why. Number one, we can't play our sport year round. I see all this youth stuff where they're just playing year round, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the human body isn't built for that. Like, I love my sport. In my mind, my sport's number one. It is. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm at a school twofold for me here, right? 750 students playing 5A sports, largest classification in Colorado. My good football players that are good athletes, you have to go help. You have to help our community. You have to get involved. But then back to the football piece of it, it's everything balances you, right? So if I'm a wrestler, let's call it what it is, man. It's me and this guy, and we're gonna get after it. Leverage, mental toughness just helps, especially in the trenches.
Right.
Basketball, great feet, great hips. You need all of that. Mason Bonner, I brought him up. A lot of his hitch routes and things like that from that flex tight end spot, he's boxing out and posting up,
Playing baseball or playing basketball. Yeah.
playing basketball, baseball. Even though I'm not going to stand up there, let someone throw a rock at me and fend it off with a stick, not my gig. What a thinking athlete's game. There's a lot of mental that
Hmm.
goes on in a baseball game, and I think it's incredible. At track, yeah, receivers, you're fast, go run track.
Right.
A lot of pride. Last year, our 4x1 and 4x2 we're both state champs, and it's 3 skill players from the football team, and just every school has that one freak. It's like, what does he do? Oh, he just runs and he's really fast, but that's
Yeah.
all he does. And one of those guys, and if football players aren't running track, if they're not doing those other things, they're not wrestling. We don't win a state wrestling title. 3 years ago,
Yeah.
we don't do those things. So you have to do something else.
I agree.
And here's the thing: when you get to my age and your age, you got to do one thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's plenty enough time to specialize. Um, don't do that. Get out
Right.
there and work your tail off. And it is kind of an unwritten rule for us. You're going to do something else. Now,
Yeah.
I've got older boys from my first marriage and in fact my son Ryan is the defense coordinator at Winona State in Minnesota, Division II
Okay.
school up there.
Yeah.
Um, they always had to do something. Now I've got this 16-year-old knucklehead that's a junior that plays linebacker here, and he's like, I'm just gonna lift and get rocked up. And no, you gotta do something else. So of course, he doesn't pick a sport at school. He picks, Muay Thai, kickboxing. I'm like, my wife's like, his face getting all messed up. I was like, it's messed up anyway. He looks like you're
Right.
still
Right. Right.
jacked up. But it's so important. And these kids have to be kids. They have to, and you never stop learning how to compete, right?
And
Because
that's the big thing, right?
that's
It's
it.
more about competing, continuing to compete in a different way with a different mindset.
Absolutely. And taking yourself out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Because what happens, I tell our guys all the time, eventually you graduate college or you don't, or you go into the real world, regardless of what your path is. Um, you have to compete for the job. So when you apply for that job and 130 other guys apply for that job, they don't give you a participation check. You know what I
Right.
mean? You lose.
Yeah.
Do you lay around or do you learn to compete and get back up on your feet? And I think when kids play multiple sports, you're exactly right. They learn to compete in different ways. They learn to deal with different personalities of the adults around them. You know, kids can get very in tune with the way I do something, but I just do it my way. Maybe that coach over
Right.
there, you do it your way. That's important.
Exactly.
That's putting tools in your tool belt when you become an adult. So
Uh-huh.
huge. I
100%.
rambled about that. Sorry, but yeah, it's
No,
huge.
that's well, I think it is huge. And I'm not, every coach that I coached with, at these high schools from other sports, like I supported them. They supported me.
Yeah.
But there's a different mindset with us football coaches when it comes to sharing athlete. Every coach of every sport says, well, I mean, you get the guy that's like, nope, not sharing my athlete. But most people are going to do what the athletic director wants. In most cases, that's, hey, we got to share our athletes. And they'll say they want to share their athletes and going to share them. But then when it's time to encourage a basketball player that's, 6'2", 200 pounds that isn't going to go play college basketball to go play football during the fall, he's, my experience is he's not going to do that. The only coach that I ever came across that religiously would do that were wrestling coaches,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's funny because the last 2 years I was coaching, our boys volleyball team, 80% of our boys volleyball team were football players, and they were good.
Oh yeah.
And kids don't think about that. I remember the first head job, I had a kid. He was a wide receiver, and he came to me and he's like, "Coach, I know I need to play another sport. I've kind of grew up playing volleyball, but I don't know if I should." And I looked at him and I'm like, dude, that's almost better than playing basketball, in my opinion.
Right.
You learn how to jump, you learn how to control your body, contort your body. I mean,
Right.
so um, yeah, that's good. Good for you. And I hope younger coaches listen and understand the importance.
Yeah.
We our kids need to experience, like you said, to build that toolbox, right? They need to be coached just like they need to be taught by others.
Yep. Yep.
And
Well, and you
so
made a comment, and you're 100% right. We had over 40 Power Four coaches through here the last couple weeks. I'm like I'm happy it's dead. Period. I'm like
yeah,
I need
yeah,
a break here, guys. But every kid that they wanted to see, one of the first questions was, "What else do you do?"
yeah,
That's simple, you know. And they don't want guys that just play football. They want athletes,
no.
and they want guys that do a lot of things. So, um, yeah, you're right.
That's great. Last question I have for you, Coach. How do you what are 3 or 4 or 5 consistent standards that kinda, define your program's identity?
Mhm.
because I was talking to, again, on that podcast, we were talking about identity,
Mhm.
and it, it's not just your identity isn't buzzwords, even though coaches were infamous for using buzzwords, right? And that could
Right,
change year to year.
right.
But the identity, it's easy for people like you and people like me to say, if someone comes and say, "What's your identity of your football team?" Automatically we think of what we want to show on the field. And mine was very simple. We're going to be tougher than hell. We're going to spread you out. We're going to hit you in the mouth. And if we get beat 50 to nothing, that other team, our opponent's going to walk off the field beat up, bruised, and they're going to know that we are a physical football team and
Mhm.
that we don't ever stop coming. So I mean that's easy. But as a culture, your identity, what are some standards that you guys set forth and every kid knows and every coach preaches,
Mhm.
that really forms your culture identity?
So, again, those buzzwords, right? We talk about brotherhood and all that, and I think that gets thrown around out there. So, we the Polynesian culture to me, one of my very good friends is Samoan, and so I don't want brotherhood on our stuff. So I use this. I
Right.
I I put a Samoan,
Ohana.
and it's Ausamani, and it stands for
Oh, I like it.
true brotherhood in Samoan. And
Oh, some money.
and what what that means to me and what we instill in these kids and it's I think it's who we are as a program.
Yeah.
It's that family piece of um, the accountability. Number one, we do some things. If there's 110 of us out there from top to bottom, and brother number one makes this mistake in school or in the community or because we talk about the back of your jersey, don't ever tarnish that.
Mhm.
That's what we truly have in life is our name. My grandfather told me one time, "Don't ever tarnish the name, boy." And I said, "Yes, sir." So we talk to our kids about that and what that means. And then that front of the jersey. So when one guy does something the wrong way, we look at that as an opportunity for everyone in the program to get better. Everyone
Yeah.
pays for that brother's mistake. In turn, we all celebrate. We've got signing today, or yesterday, and it's packed
Good.
full of our football players and their families that teammates aren't. It's not their parents, but they wanted to come. So I think forming that family is important. And let me tell you what gets us there. And I honestly believe this. It's okay to turn to the kid next to you and say, "I love you, brother."
Right.
Right? I
Right.
man, anything for you. And so when you're trying to build out Usamani, you got to be able to tell the guy you love him. You got to be able to tell the guy you're pissed at him. You got to be able to look at 110 kids and say, "I screwed up. This is on me."
Mhm.
Because what ends up happening, no one will let that kid get extra work by himself. There's 110 guys that throw their shoulder pads off. And we started to see that this year. We're finally together. We finally trust the guy next to us. That flips into, if you want a fist fight, man, I got 110 dudes with me, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that that toughness piece of it, that togetherness, um, man, it's super important. And obviously being at SC, you've been around the Polynesian culture, and
Played
this is
with a
weird.
lot of Samoans.
Yeah, this is weird coming from a white guy, right? I tease myself. I'm like, I'm just the Palangi friend hanging out, but it's different. It's
Yeah.
it's
A
it's
100%.
it's inspiring, and I want that in our football program. I want that um, instilled into our kids that I can fight with you, I can do all these things, but I can also love you and appreciate you
Love
for
it.
who you are and what you do.
Right.
And I think again back to the coaching piece, when coaches are willing to do, you know, I mean, we did some stupid stuff last year. We had one coach, he lines up to start running with our director of performance, and I'm like, "You son of a bitch, man. Gosh dang it." So then we are all throwing our hats down. Like about 30 yards into this sprint, everything started tightening up. The hamstrings were going. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna
Not
blow
having
on
it.
you. You're going down. But I think it's just that I said it earlier, the say it, do it, but you have to build, and you can't just say we're a brotherhood. That's bullshit.
Right, right, and everybody says it, or we're a
Yeah,
family. Yeah,
yeah.
you just said,
How do you cultivate that? Well, discipline, tough.
yeah,
We're gonna be tough on you. Um, and I think when you get a kid to understand that I know you're being hard on me, right? And I know I wasn't accountable, but I also know you love me. They trust you to come talk to you. I mean, we had a kid this year. This kid wouldn't talk to anybody. He would hide things. He wouldn't say anything. We turned the corner, coach. The kid will walk in and he's like, "Hey, I screwed up, man. I just want to let you know ahead of time here. I was looking at someone else's paper during this test and I'm going to get in trouble, but you need to know." Right?
and that's what it's about, right?
That's it. That's it.
That's why we do it.
That's it. I mean, this door is open for a reason. And we give the kids parameters with that, right? Like, hey, if you're unhappy, talk to your position coach. Hey, if that doesn't go well for you, talk to the coordinator.
Come to
If not,
right,
come see me. But we're
right,
teaching that young man through Usamani how to be accountable. Think about what you did. Think about where you're at. Did you go through the steps? And then when it gets to me, a lot of times the conversation doesn't go the way they want it. But I think they leave here understanding that I know coach has my back, but man, he's really pissed off. Well, what do you think's going to happen? But comfortable enough to come in and talk to me about it, comfortable to take yourself and put yourself in a difficult situation and get through it. And I think we do that really well here. And I think that's because I demand from my coaches, if you're here and you tell a kid, I'm the coach, you have to respect me. Bullshit. You
yeah,
have to earn that kid's respect. See, the game of
right,
football is so magical because it's mutual. You know what I mean? It's not, I'm the hierarchy and you're below me. No, we're in this
yeah.
together. And when kids know that and they believe that because that's what you show them, because you're doing what you say, man, I
This
know this in a
makes
dark alley, I got 110 that are coming, you know,
right,
and
right.
that's taken some time to put that in here. It's, it's not about me, it's about us. That's so cliche. I hate even telling you that, but it's about Usamani.
Yeah. And just I just first thing that when you were talking and you were talking about Samani, for coaches out there, the way that I'm putting it in my head is Samani, if you're gonna fight, it's because you love the person. If you're gonna disagree, it's because it's love. Where most people disagree and fight because of hate or disdain or dislike. Usamani, if you fight and disagree, it's because it comes from love. And
Absolutely.
that's my 3 grown boys, adults, we get in an argument, which doesn't happen because they're still scared of me a little bit. Uh,
It's always good.
but we'll disagree and stuff like that, or even my ex-wife, who I get along with still, you know, if we have a disagreement, it's not because I don't like you. It's quite the opposite. And that's what I
Right.
used to always tell our kids. Like, the minute that I stop trying to correct you or help you or educate you or prepare you, and don't say anything, and I would tell parents that that's a problem. If I ever go silent on your kid
Hmm.
and your kid tells you, "Hey, coach doesn't really talk to me," that needs to trigger something in your head that there's something going on with your own child that they need to correct.
Yep.
And it starts with coming and talking to me and being transparent and having a heart to heart. Well,
100%.
coach,
100%.
you're a badass, man.
Well, I appreciate you,
Um,
man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no, I appreciate you jumping on last minute, and this has been awesome. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No worries. Have a great day.